Hi guys, Tony Campbell here, the Property QS. So thank you for signing up for our emails, and I'm glad that one of the things that you have difficulties with is estimating. And the reason for that is estimating is my favourite subject in the whole world. I've been doing construction-based estimating for almost 20 years now. I know I don't look old enough to have done it for 20 years, but I have nearly done it for 20 years. I've estimated all sorts of construction projects from small scale property refurbishments all the way up to multi-billion pound projects in various industries. And what I've obviously learned in that time is estimating best practice and estimating theory and how that's applied in the real world. So what I want to talk to you today about is why people's estimates are generally always wrong. And it's to do with the type of estimate we try and get right at the beginning of a project. So you can see the graph in front of us is front-end loading, and this is a system that's used in project management across the globe, usually on larger scale projects, but that doesn't mean that the lessons aren't applicable to smaller scale projects. So you can see here that front-end loading split into 5 phases. But if we ignore phase 4 and phase 5, because phase 4 is construction and phase 5 is when the building's operational, and we just focus on phase 1, 2 and 3, which is the bit before we start on site where we do all the hard work on paper, you can see that we don't really get a detailed cost estimate. So plus or minus 10% accuracy, so that's the most detailed type of estimate you can get, until we've done all the detailed engineering or detailed design, or we've figured out exactly what it is that we want from our project. So if we put this in terms of a property refurbishment project, we would need to have all the drawings done. We'd need to have a detailed specification of what it is that we're looking for in our property, the finishes that we want to put in. We'd want to have the kitchen design done. We'd want to have the bathroom layout done. We'd want to have done full surveys of the existing building before we can get to a detailed cost estimate. But the problem in property is most people go seeking this detailed cost estimate, this fixed price from a builder, right at the beginning of the project when we're only in FEL 1. Which is conceptual engineering. So when we kind of got an idea about what it is that we want from the project, we know we want to refurb it and it's going to be a buy to let, but that's about all we know. And we go seeking this type of estimate when we can't really get it. All we can get is a ballpark estimate. And I know people have told you before, or may have told you before, that ballpark estimates aren't the right thing to do, and rough estimates give you rough results, but that's a load of nonsense. The only reason people say that is because they don't actually understand estimating. So then the next step in the estimating dance would be to get a plus or minus 30% cost estimate, so like an intermediate estimate. And to do that, you need to have done some feasibility engineering in engineering speak. But reality, that means for you that you're going to have some drawings, even if they're just floor plans of what the existing is and what the proposed is, and kind of how many sockets and stuff you're going to need. That'll be the point where you can start getting a more detailed cost estimate than the one you might be able to get right at the beginning. So this is why estimates are always wrong, because what happens is people don't have enough detail. They try and seek out a fixed cost estimate, and what happens is it leads to estimates being accurately wrong, because people will try and force the detail that doesn't exist, and it's much better to be broadly right. So if you stay tuned for our second video that I'm going to do in this series, you will see how we estimate broadly right at the very beginning of a project. And that's the best thing to do. And then as we move through the estimating series, I'll show you how then we move into a feasibility estimate where you get a bit more accuracy, and then how you move to a detailed estimate once you've got the design information. Okay, so that's the basis of front-end loading. So then the second slide we've got here is to do with estimating. This is the estimating funnel. This is well documented in global estimating best practice, and I've just simplified it into a graph here so you can see what happens. So basically, this is scope definition. So this is how mature your project is. So right at the beginning, you've got a ballpark estimate. So remember when people say you can't do ballpark estimates, the first estimate in global estimating best practice is a ballpark estimate. So that's what estimators do across the world. So people in property telling you can't do ballpark estimates are fundamentally wrong when they say things like that. So at the beginning, you're going to know less than 5% of your scope definition. For you, that is really going to mean you're going to have looked at the project on Rightmove, and that's probably it. You may have gone for a viewing. But once you go for a viewing, then you can probably start moving down the funnel a little bit using our viewing checklist, which I'll walk you through in one of the later videos in this series. Okay, so what you can see is when you're doing a ballpark estimate right at the beginning, your estimate has got an accuracy of -50 to +100. That's the widest you're ever really going to have. And that's quite a scary number because what it's saying is basically you can be 50% less or 100% more than the number you might think it is. However, when we come to talk about estimating uncertainty and contingency, in the last video, I'll explain how all this works mathematically, and it's not as worrying as it seems right now. So stay tuned for that as well. I've got a lot of estimating knowledge to share with you. So yeah, when you're first looking at a project, this is where you are. There's no getting away from it. That's the set uncertainty you've got. And what people try and do is they try and force to get down here where there's a little amount of uncertainty, -10% to +15%, but you can't get there until you've defined 50% or more of the scope of your project. And the scope is the project objective, your work breakdown structure, your specification and your schedule of works, and your design and your surveys. You need all this information before you can get this sort of class of estimate. So trying to force it here is completely the wrong thing to do. So then there's 3 types of estimate, as I've just mentioned. So you've got your ballpark, which is the first one. Then you've got a preliminary estimate, which sits around here with an accuracy of -20 to +30. So this is what you'd be doing once you've been on your viewing and you've got the viewing checklist with some numbers on there so that you can build your own estimate in chunks. And then finally, when you've got all of your information and you're ready to go out to get a price from your builder, you'll be able to do an estimate here with this level of accuracy before you get your costs back from your builder. The biggest mistake I see people in property making is taking a builder round at the very beginning before they know what they want and then getting quotes back from them, which are pretty meaningless. Those quotes won't be based on anything. So you need to make sure you're defining the scope of the project before you start going to get a builder involved. Okay, well that's our first video about explaining why everybody's estimates are usually wrong from the beginning, because they're here and they're trying to get an estimate here, and it just leads to it being accurately wrong, which means you're trying to force detail that you haven't got, and then because you'll have missed something, it makes your estimate accurately wrong, because you've tried to be too accurate, but it's wrong. You're better being broadly right. Estimating in big chunks so that you've got some buffers built into the cost. That doesn't mean over-egging the cost. That just means making sure there's buffers for the unforeseen things that are going to be in your project. Okay, like I said, I hope you enjoyed that video about estimating. This is Estimating Theory 101. This is what I used to go around the globe teaching to estimators so that they could understand how estimating really works on larger scale engineering projects. So as I said, stay tuned for the next video in this series that's going to get sent to you soon, which will be showing you how to compile your own ballpark estimate using the exact same numbers that we use when we compile our ballpark estimates, so that when you're looking at projects on Rightmove or Zoopla or whatever other property portal you use, you can quickly and accurately estimate the cost of the work just based on the pictures. Okay, until next time, thank you very much for listening.